Thank you. I'm Pierre Mogensen from Mergetool.com. I'm the lead developer of this Easy Security product also in here, and I also do training and other things. We're not a large company. We focus mainly on these security tools now with all the things we do. Our solution, the NAV Easy Security solution, really contains two parts in here. One is login and permissions, and it's a set of tools for the normal NAV security. It allows you very precise security to be set up. So if you have segregation of duties, that's one of the things that is very common to be done with this tool. We also have a lot of reporting that allow you to see what a user can do in the system based on the permission that have been assigned in here. And one of the key things is, of course, we simplify the whole process, allowing it to be done in some cases within hours instead of actually spending weeks or even more setting up security. Field level and data security is the other part of solution, and it enhances the normal NAV security, where you can either have modify access to a customer or you can't modify it. We can control each individual field and a lot more things with that. It does add changes to pages and forms in the classic world to be able to support this, but it's actually added with a wizard that allows easy uninstall also. You can buy and install each of them individually. All this is available from 2.6 Classic to the latest NAV version. So you can use it with any version you currently have, or if you intend to upgrade to the latest one, we will of course support that also. Login and permissions is the tools for the normal NAV security. And we can group permission set, and we can group companies, assigning things like customer service to a person, and maybe one or two companies at that point inside a single group, really simplifying the setup for each user at that point. We can also handle expiration date. When somebody is on vacation, need to temporarily assign some permissions. You can do that with the expiration date also in here. We have created something we call quick security. There's a lot of tables and objects in NAV, but there's really only a few of them you typically really care about. And that's exactly what quick security is about. You deny access to the things you care about or reduce it, and then we will build security only for those things. Another thing we deliver with the application is actually data. We have more than 100 permission sets that are tested from 2009 to 2018 and is intended for segregation of duties, typically opening up for only a single task in the system in there. As you will see, we have also an ability to actually add related permission, and that will make these permission set works with a lot of the things that are customized in typical NAV installs. We can record permission. That's record both table data, but it also record objects. Objects are important for protecting what people can actually see in the system. And in that way, object level permission is an integrated part of our solution also. We can do a lot of documentation about the security. If you have auditors that needs to see who can post credit memos and things like that, you'll be able to simply make a report based on the data you see on the screen in our application. Everything we do in our application is offline, so you would actually finish all the changes to login and permissions, and then you do a publish. We both create a restore point that allow you to roll back, but also can be used for later to actually compare changes to security over time. Quick security is a part of the login and permission, but we really create three types of users: reading, working, and super access to data in there. You can deny access to important data with down to read only or to no access. And we have already reduced the permission for working access down to read only for 400 setup tables. It also, even on the super level, allow people to use the whole application and do all the setup they need business application-wise, but no access to security or the creating or deleting companies and things like that that are more the technical part of NAV. You can also deny access to objects, and as you will see, it's quite easy to actually go ahead and take away many of the things related to finance, very simple by controlling object level security. Combining quick security with the permission sets we deliver allow a very simple way without really doing any recording to set up security for most of your things, because we have already the permission set to open up for those things. You have ended up maybe denying or reducing for permissions. Oh, one thing about quick security, it's also a great option during an upgrade. If you're upgrading from an older NAV to a new one, it's hard to have everything ready for the initial go live, but with quick security, at least you protect all the setup data so people are not changing it. And you can do the few things you need initially, and then you can gradually implement security after that. Field level and data security is the other parts of our solution, and it works in parallel with normal NAV. It will allow people to have access to edit a customer, for example, but be able to control the individual fields in there. We can control pages. We can make them read-only or hide them. Maybe you want people to create sales orders, but you don't want them to create credit memos. There's not a lot of difference in the data access you need. There actually is no difference, but you need to use a different page, and you can make the credit memo and invoice pages maybe show up read-only, and the sales order will look normal. We can also control field level security. So when people create a sales order, they can maybe pick the customer, the ship to address, modify the ship to address, but they can't change the payment terms and things like that, for example. And things again can be grayed out or hidden. So you could gray out the release button on the sales order, so a person actually couldn't do that either in there. The hiding option is a great way to simplify the application also, basically taking away all the things that you don't have a need for a specific type of users, allow a much simpler page with less mistakes being made by new users, for example. We can also do data security, filter data, so you only see some records in there. And they can both be hard-coded, but they can also be based on users, actually. So each user can have specific filters in there also. All this works by adding code on pages, but it also has a wizard that both add and remove the page. So there's no manual customization required for this one. But let me go ahead and show this instead in here, and I'll be using NAV version, one of the newer ones in here, and I will first look at the login and permissions in here. When you assign security to a person, we do everything offline in here, so you can finish all the changes. And I have a new user, John, in here. I want to go assign some permissions to him. We can assign individual permission sets, but we really suggest you create groups of permission sets to simplify the maintenance in here. I have created a group containing several permission sets in here, basically everything people would need to work in customer service. I also have created another group containing groups on a lower level and basically combining them in here. But in this one, it allows me to assign more job description and still keep my permission sets in a simple way where they're actually very easy to maintain. The same thing we do about permission sets, we also do about companies. And I've created a group with 2 companies in, and I have 4 companies called something with Kronos in here. It allows an easy way to add a company in the future, or even have totally different company names in a test database compared to a production database, and still use the same security setup. One of the important parts about our application in an upgrade or installation scenario is that we actually allow export and import of all our data. So you can finish the setup in your test database, and when you upgrade and get your final database, you can simply import it and apply the security you have already been testing in your previous database. As I update this login, I can go in and see I have 28 access controls, basically combination of companies and permission sets in here. We also calculate something we call summary permission, and on top, summary results out here. This one is a list of the abilities people have in the system. So I can see in my Kronos Europe company, this user can now post sales credit memos and sales invoices in here. And if I go in and open up the details in here, I can see that actually is a whole list of information or access necessary in here. If I look at my customer ledger entry, I can go here and see where it's actually assigned from. So I know there's a group sales assigned to the user. There's permission sets assigned, and each of them give this level in here. So the one, of course, is the one allowed posting invoices or credit memos down here that gave me the insert access into this table, of course, in here. So in this way, there's a lot of way to also drill back and look at all the data in here. Creating permission set is the most time-consuming and annoying process to do manually. And we can basically record permissions in here. Depending on the version of NAV, it's a little different. I'm using a version from 27 and newer in here. And it actually allows me to go directly and create a recording in here myself in here. So I'll go in here and say I want to have a new permission set for recording or editing a customer. I'll create a new recording in here. And then I will go here and start recording. I can actually also record a totally different session. So I could record another user. And as we do that, we will even suggest that you add super if the user don't have access to something. So it can be very simple to actually record somebody inside the NAV system. But I'll be recording myself in here. And this now has been started. So I'll go back to my NAV clients, go to my list of customers. I'll just go edit one of the customers in here. And I'm just going to change the address down here. Now I'll go back to my recording, and I'll go ahead and stop this recording in here. So just doing a single edit of a customer in here was actually 114 permission. And that's why doing this manually ends up getting very time consuming in here. So I can see I was reading and modifying my customer. I was doing some business chart setup. I was modifying my contact and so on. But very importantly, also all the pages that were necessary was also recorded in here. I used 2017 or in here, and it actually works a little different in earlier versions, but you would just be using the SQL profiler. But the result would be the same, that you basically have a recording with all the permissions necessary for a certain process in here. But just having the necessary permission is one of those things where now people do a lookup on something and it actually don't work anyway. So with our application, we have a source code analyzer. It will go in and it will scan the actual code in your database. So based on that code, there was a lot more relations that I was needing in here. So my 114 permission got to be 191 in here. And that is really all these things are saying additional in here in origin, because I didn't do a lookup in payment terms, but we know from scanning the source code that we actually had a read permission necessary because there's a table relation. This one will also include all ISV solution and other things that is in your database, of course. So in this way, we can record permission. We have also, with our solution, included a lot of new permission sets. And I'll just show them here in a spreadsheet, and then we can take a look at how they're organized in groups in here. But basically, these permission sets are recorded. They will use the same source code analysis based on your actual code and improve on these permission sets. So many of the things that is unique to your installation would actually be included in here. But we have created permission set for master data to view, create, edit, or create related. We can view documents. We can create the individual documents, only post a shipment, only post an invoice, only post a credit memo, and so on. Things related to the different processes, one task at a time. So if you need segregation of duties, that is really the kind of permission set you would need in here. We've done the same for purchase. We have done it for finance. We have done it for inventory. And we also have created some for role centers. Basically, a very simple way of assigning security in here. All this one, you can now go in and look at the kind of people you are working in your organization, and you basically have an ability in here to just assign these individual tasks. All this, of course, in our system just gets created as a permission group, of course. So building permission sets and setting up security is one of those initial tasks that ends up taking a lot of time to define and also to test. To get around that initial setup, we have created what we call quick security in here, basically allowing a setup that allows people to do a lot of things, but we will be controlling the things they cannot do in here. And we will be reducing the permissions maybe on certain things. So we have created 3 levels of data access: working, reading, or super access. We have also object access in here. If I look at it right now, we have around 1,250 tables in here. And looking at a person that can work in a system, there's a lot of tables where they only have read permission. So they can't create new payment terms, they can't create new countries, locations, and so on. But all the things related to working in the system, they currently have full access in here. A reading user will have the same table, and a super user will also have the same table. But there is tables that are not in here, like the one about creating companies, changing users' permissions, and things like that one. I have close to 4,000 objects in here also. All this is being controlled with what we call object properties in here. And the reason that these tables showed up with read-only for a working user was it was in here. So if you have ISV or custom developed application, you can make this work exactly the same way for those parts also. All you have to do is just define which one you would consider read-only for a working user. You also have all the things related to posting, and you maybe want to control who is actually posting documents. So you want to make the GL into read-only. You don't want people to change customers. You don't want people to change items, and you don't want them to create sales orders and so on. You'll be using other permission sets for these few things I have reduced in here. And I can do this initially as it is and come back later and take a few more tables away or reduce them, and in that way go in and constantly improve on my security, but I don't have to have all of it finished right away to be able to deploy it at that point. The other thing is we can take information away. You maybe have a payroll solution that is using the human resource module, and you don't even want your accounting super users to have access to it. So you can actually go in here and make it no access, and that will take it away even for the accounting super users in here. We also have an ability to do the same for code in here. So if I go in and say my page 25 or page 16 in here, my chart of account, I actually don't want people to have access to that. I can assign them other permissions that will give that, but by default, I don't want them to have access to it. We can also add this from relations. So relations is the output of our source code analysis. So I can go in and look for report and pages, and it will tell me that report number 1 is using the GL account, and number 2 is using the general journal and things like that one. Simply by filtering on what is being used by an report or page, I can go in and find things related to financial management. So you can see all I did was just a filter here for a certain list of objects. And I now have a list of reports using financial information. And I have a list of pages also showing financial information. All these ones, I also want to make no access in here. So in that way, I now have removed 140 objects out of my 3,900. So all the other ones is not showing financial information, but I have to assign the people that should see that either normal super or give them another level of accessing the code, of course, in here. So this quick security in here is a very fast way of setting up security. And I'll go here and start a publish. And I will then, in the meantime, log in as a person that is assigned this working access in here. This is my user David in here. So right now, oops. Okay, what is the deal here? Okay, now I type the password, right? And the username. So as I get in, I will be able to modify my customer and things like that one. Right now, I can also go to financial management, look at my chart of account and so on, because it's working on the publishing. If I go back, try to modify a customer, I will be able to change the address on this customer. There's no problem about that because it's still working on getting the data calculated and published in here. But since I only have the working access, if I thought it was actually a great idea that I should be able to be a salesperson myself in here, if I try to create a new one, it will not allow me to do that because that is one among the 400 tables or so we have found where to work in the system, you really don't need more than read access in here. So all your setup, posting groups and so on has actually been locked down in here. So I can't create that salesperson in here. If I go back and try open up my department now, I can see I don't have access to execute the chart of account because it just finished publishing down here. With 2015 and later of NAV, it will actually remove all the menu items that you don't have access to as you log in. And the same happens in the classic version also in there. So as I took away the access to execute the chart of account now, it is not any longer in my menu. And even if I go search, it wouldn't see it because it's just basically based on my menu in here. So there's a lot more features in here about reporting also, but this part of the application really allows you to set up security very fast to get something done immediately, and you can constantly improve on it. And you can, of course, also use it to do traditional, very specific help in NAV also. I want to switch to the other part, the field level and data security, and show you how that works. Because when I modified a customer, I could go in and I could change any field in here. I'm a super user right now, but there was really no difference between changing the salesperson, the credit limit, or changing the address as I did in here. So first of all, I want to lock this down so people don't have a chance of changing all this information. So we have created a user security setup here. It's kind of inverse of the normal NAV security. We allow a lot of defaults, and then you only have to specify the one that are different. So by leaving the user ID blank, I now have a default of read-only out here. Getting back to my list of customers, my menu items gray out. Looking at a single customer, I can't really see anything any longer. Or I can't change anything. I can only see the information. If I look at all my actions and things, it's all grayed out. I can really only see the information. I can't click on anything. I want to make another setup, and I want to do it for myself in here, so I actually can change some fields at least. And I'll go into table 18, and if I leave my field level security code blank, everything will show up normal for me again. But I want to create a new one, and I'll just call it address in here. And my read-only is my default in here. That's why I picked it. And I'm going to do something quite restrictive. So I will start out with that one in here. As I look at the details in here, I can see for each page what my level of access is in here. And the same way as we can do with the users, I have a default and I can make exceptions for different pages in here. My customer card, I want to leave that editable and come back and do fields. I can also go in and take my customer statistics and say, people should not really see this. So I'm actually going to hide that page for them in here. On my customer card, I want to go deal with the fields. And we can again do a default. So I will set every field to view. Then I will go ahead and add a few of the fields back again. So all these things related to address in here, I will go ahead and add that and leave those editable again. We can also remove information, and it's commonly used for taking the cost away from the lines and things like that. But basically all these things related to the balance, I don't really want people to see it, so I'm going to hide that information in here. So most of the fields in our view, and I have a few things that I want to treat differently. The same thing, we can deal with fields, we can also deal with actions. And I'm going to make a very simple page. So I'm actually going to hide all of them by default in here. And then I will add a few of them back that I want people to be seeing and potentially clicking on. So contacts, statistics, ledger entries, comments, and ship tools, for example. Those one I want to leave editable so people can click on them. But we can also gray them out individually, of course. So I'll make my ledger entry gray out in here. So I created my new field level security code. I will assign that to myself, and then I will go back and take a look at my customer card in here. Now my fields are grayed out as I expected. The few of them are editable. I used to have a balance field up here, but they're gone. And my ribbon is really simple now. There's only the few things that I wanted to show up in here. If I click on statistics, it shows me an error because that was the page I didn't allow people to do in here. So controlling this allows you to use any page. It didn't matter who created it. It's just a question of running an initial process. It will actually support this one in here. So it works for custom development ISV solutions also. The other part of this solution is the ability to filter data in here. And I can see I have several locations in here. And I want to go create a data security code. So I actually only allow people to see the one for the blue location in here. And again, I will have it for the customer table. I will do it for every page, so it works the same on all of them. You can, of course, again, have different filters by different pages. And I want to go and select my location code. I want to do a hidden filter. I don't want people to get around it, and I don't even want them to see that there actually is a filter on there. So I want for the blank or the blue location in here. We can also do helpful filters. So if there is a lot of blocked customers and we don't really want to see them on all the drop-down list and so on, I can go in and filter. So by default, we add a filter in here for the first value. And in that way, we will actually only see the one that are not blocked up here to begin with in here. So, but I created my new data security code. all I now need to do is go add it to this list in here with the assignment to the users. So I'll just go in here and add the location data security code out here. As I now go back to my list of customers, I will now see only the blank and blue customers in here. We can also make this actually be user specific. So we have a way of using a user filter where we have a whole list of dimensions in NAV, and we will be using those ones, creating data security with them, and in that way allowing to build up security. There's many more things, but that's what I wanted to show you here today. I want to go back and talk a little about the pricing of our solution and how this one is actually sold in here. There's really two pieces of our solution. It is added to your NAV license, so you'll get it in your test, your production, and any other database you use your NAV license for. And it's not depending on the number of users. So it's $2,500 for the login and permissions. It's the same for field level and data security. You can buy them individually. You can also get the complete solution, and it's $4,500. We have same as Microsoft, the 16% yearly enhancement on that amount if you want to get the new versions, of course. We can do training that is delivered online for a fixed price, but it's done inside your environment actually. Or you can use our full documentation that is completely free. Innovia, of course, also can help you with training in this application. They're very familiar with it. They have several customers using it. We have more than 1,000 NAV customers actually using our application now, and yeah, they're in more than 80 countries of the world. There's a lot more information on our website, and you've seen a demonstration of it, but we will be happy to do a more specific one that is also where you can get more details about your needs in there. But you can contact Innovia or you can send an email to us. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I don't know if there's any questions.
Yes, Per, we do have a few questions. Can we implement field level security for our ISV solution?
Yes, we don't really care what code is in the database. We actually have only new objects. So when you add our solution to your system, you just import the objects. There is no merge cost or anything like that. The field level and data security, you simply select which tables you want these features on, and then Innovia will help running that process. Or if you do your own development, you can just basically run that process yourself at that point. So you can do it for any table in the system, yes.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Does this also work for the classic client?
Yes, there's no difference at all. This one works exactly the same way in Classic as you have seen it today. There's only the action security is the only thing that is different in here. In the Classic world, we can only control the buttons, but else it is the exact same application as you have seen. It is just running in the Classic world. So yes, it works in both ways. And you can actually take the security you have built in Classic and upgrade it to the latest version when you upgrade NAV, and a lot of it will actually move over, and you don't have to do so much, especially if you use the permission sets we have created.
Okay, thank you. And one last question. How long does it take to install? What's the typical time?
Yeah, see, that's a tricky question because if you want to use quick security, you want to use field level security maybe on 3 or 4 tables in the system. The install process takes under 2 hours to run the technical install of it. Doing the setup using quick security will take a few hours to do and test, and the same about the field level. So you can actually finish this technically in a day, But of course, depending on how tight your requirements are, how much your reporting you will need, and things like that one, it can take much longer than that, of course. But you could theoretically do it in a day. I will suggest you take our training, and then you would probably save the time when you actually go install it at that point. So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the presentation, Per. It was very informative. And thank you everyone for attending. We appreciate your attendance. And like I said, this has been recorded, so if you want to come back to it later and review it again or share it with anyone else, you're more than welcome to. It'll be available on our website later this week for you to do that. And we just want to let you know of our events that are coming up. We do have another webinar next week. Innovia's Tom Doran will be presenting on Outlook integration with NAV is finally here on April 16th. And then we have Charge Logic on April 25th. They will be presenting on PCI, Validated Payment Processing Solutions. So if you are interested in either of those webinars, go to our website and click on the events page to register for those events or anything else. And then we also have our customer conference that is coming up next week. Today's the last day to register. So if you're interested in registering, please notify us so that we can get you registered and a hotel room booked. It is a free event to attend, and you're more than welcome to bring other colleagues, friends to the conference. So that will be held in Wisconsin Dells at the Chula Vista Resort and Conference Center. It's April 18th and 19th next week. So we would love to have you and meet any of you or see any of you again. All right, well, that concludes our presentation for today. Again, thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you on one of our next webinars. Have a great day.